Extension after extension after extension. Will the state capture inquiry ever finish its work? 3 months have passed since the commission went to the High Court seeking an extension until this month of December. And now it wants another 2 months. Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says the existing budget, though, will cover the required extended period. Well, let's unpack this further with political analyst Sandile Swana. Sandile, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I guess some people will say, at least it's not going to cost the taxpayer any more money, this new requested extension of 2 months. But it might not have come as a surprise that the Deputy Chief Justice and his team would want more time to finalize their report. What's your view, Sandile?
Yeah, I think that well, we are where we are now, but it's now taken 6 times the amount of time that was originally planned. This was a 6 months project. From what I understand, it's now 3 years, which is 36 months. And part of that was the cause of that was the extension of the scope of the project. And obviously, as you listen to the testimonies and everything else, it would be, I mean, this is the type of thing that can take a lifetime to finish if we are not careful. However, I must say that the report that Judge Zondo read out, part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the reports that are coming out, what I'm lacking in that report, what I don't see, is to say exactly what is the precise content of each one of these reports, because he knows that. He should be knowing that. Number 2, in terms of prosecution, recovery of assets, etc., where are we with those issues? Because commissions of inquiry are notorious for being cover-ups.
Yes, and they're also notorious for making recommendations that a sitting head of state may choose not to implement. But before we get there, 2 months more to finalize the report. President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa was supposed to be receiving this at the end of this month. Now it's going to be in February. Are you optimistic that this time this will be the last of these extensions?
Well, I think I'm not as optimistic as all that, because I mean, unfortunately, he keeps on asking for 3 months here, 3 months over there. This time is 2 months. It looks like he's shy of asking for the correct amount of time to say, let's do this thing, and let me just be realistic and say this thing cannot be done as speedily as all that. He's a judge, and he's working with experienced advocates. They write very lengthy documents, and it is in their habit to do that. And unfortunately, the longer these documents they write and the more detailed they are, they take longer to complete.
Yeah, and it's like the rest of the country is like held in suspense, so to speak, until that climax when we are told, I have finally, Raymond Zondo, have finally handed this report to the president with all the details and everything else, plus the recommendations. I mean, if you are not optimistic, I was just thinking, what would have to be different from your understanding? What would have to be different, I mean, between now and the end of February? For example, is it the speed with which they work? Is it wrapping up a few loose ends and tying up a few loose ends, dotting the relevant I's and crossing the T's? What is going to have to happen in the next 2 months for them, I mean, to finish this? I mean, I wonder even if the High Court will grant them the extension.
Bear in mind that they've opened another avenue, and it's a fair avenue to open, but a very risky one. They have some people who must either come and comment on evidence given against them, some other witnesses that need to be called. And we know that some of these witnesses also throw the spanner in the works by requesting their own extensions and coming up with all sorts of issues by themselves. I mean, Jacob Zuma demonstrated that to the extreme. So you have those types of problems that are going to be there. But what you would want to say, at least from our point of view as the public, is to say, good fellows, can we then have the low-hanging fruits starting to come in, at least whether it is end of December, end of March, end of June, but at least the low-hanging fruit with clear indications about prosecutions, asset forfeiture, and disciplinary processes within the state.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see, Sandile. Realistically, should he have been asking for an extension to the end of June?
Probably, I would think so. Another issue that he has been raising before were the issues of, for instance, COVID-19, how it interrupted them. And I'm not saying that it was COVID-19 that made one of the main writers of these reports to fall sick and not be available, but it's a period where people are generally falling sick. So there's a lot of issues to consider. Once you've made a delay of this magnitude, 6 times the amount of time originally allocated, you might as well, give yourself enough time to complete the job properly.
Yeah, Sandile Swana making a bit of sense there. Thank you very much for your insights this hour. He's, of course, political analyst there. We're talking about this new request by the State Capture Inquiries Commission to extend its work to the end of February, asking, is this enough? First, it was not a surprise. Should the Deputy Chief Justice, Raymond Zono, not just ask for an extension to the end of June?